You ever played the Spider-Man PS4 game? Yeah, it's pretty cool. One time I was playing it and I died, and while I was staring at my screen waiting for the game to load, I came to the stark realization that I am, in fact, not Spider-Man, despite what I believed moments prior. Spider-Man wouldn't have died there. Of course he wouldn't. Actually, I'm just some guy sitting in a gaming chair, and not only that, I'm also the sole reason why Spider-Man just got blown up by some random guy with a rocket launcher. So I cried for a bit, and then I went back to playing. But the point I'm trying to make is that even though I love the Spider-Man PS4 game, most of what I consider to be the best games I've ever played all have one thing in common, which is the absence of a game over. So yeah, that's why sometimes I like to play my games on easy mode. Call me a little baby guy all you want, but let me explain. First off, this isn't really about the difficulty of the game. I can appreciate a good challenge if it's done well, but I don't always think it's necessary for a failure to result in a game over. Every time this happens, it feels like I'm losing all my immersion and connection to the character I'm playing to simply sit and think, what went wrong? How can I stop myself from dying again? And then I get to try again. But the character I'm playing doesn't get to do that. From a narrative standpoint, they die and that's it. Unfortunately for the protagonist, death is the end. Unless it isn't. Hades, one of the best games I've ever played, has a grand total of 0 game overs. That's because you play as Zagreus, the son of Hades, who just so happens to be immortal. Every time you die together, and respawn back at the very start, together. All the knowledge you've gained on your journey, yeah, Zagreus remembers that too. And not to mention, that desire to reach your goal that just burned a little brighter from your failure, yep, he feels just the same. Every time you restart, all the dialogue between characters are new. Bosses will acknowledge that you fought before. The story still moves forward regardless of your failure. I cannot get enough of this in video games. I love it when there's not a single moment where I'm disconnected from the character I'm controlling. It's the best. And this can be accomplished very easily too. There's plenty of games, Animal Crossing for example, where it's just not possible to die. But I find it all the more impressive if they find a way to keep that connection to the protagonist while simultaneously being able to raise the stakes. That's what I love about Hades, but there are some other games that have done this too. Outer Wilds has only a couple different ways to achieve a game over, but I think in a pretty standard playthrough, as in if you're not a complete maniac, I don't think you'll ever see one. There's a few games that take a very weird and confusing meta approach to this, where the protagonist can die, but that's not actually who you're controlling. You're playing as a player, playing the game, and sometimes that player is you, so you're just controlling yourself. Listen, I said it was weird, I don't really get it. Moving on. Before I close off, I want to say I feel like horror games could benefit from this more than any other genre, but so few do. From my experience, going into a horror game blind is one of the most scariest experiences you can have. I talked about this briefly in my Voices of the Void video. Not knowing what to expect is usually horrifying. Until you die, of course. Then you know exactly what to expect. If there is a horror game out there where you can't reach a game over, I'm pretty sure it'll be terrifying from start to end. At the end of the day, it's kind of weird how much of a staple this screen is in gaming culture, because I really think it just shouldn't be around for games where I'd really like to get immersed into the characters and narrative, but that's just me, I guess. If you know any games like this that I didn't talk about, please let me know in the comments, because I would love to play them. Now, this might be the corniest thing I've ever said, but I think we should keep the game overs for when the game really is over.